You're recognized.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President. Happy birthday. A lot of great points made today, and I was keeping my powder pretty dry, but I wanted to rise in light of this conversation and point out some things that probably need to be said. Let's recognize that this child welfare contract debacle lies squarely at the feet of Governor Rickett. And the legislature right now is trying to clean up the mess that the governor made, as today he cynically sends out this message, totally spreading misinformation and attacking the legislature from his legislative blog, or from his executive branch blog, where he writes a column. And he shares this today. It's called Halftime at the Unicameral. And he shares this to deflect from the fact that he has failed Nebraska taxpayers, not only with the Saint Francis contract, but with the state prison. And everything he's doing to try to deflect from that, he calls the Nebraska State Penitentiary crumbling, which is so shameful. Most of the administrative and living spaces in the Nebraska State Penitentiary were built in the 80s and 90s, so that's not true. He says that we're wasting our time pushing a bill, quote, that benefits illegal immigrants. He says LB 298 would grant unemployment benefits to certain categories of illegal immigrants living in Nebraska. This would weaken existing state law that forbids spending taxpayer money to give unemployment benefits to people illegally residing in our state. The current crisis at our nation's border with Mexico shows the consequences of watering down our immigration laws. Nebraska shouldn't follow suit, attacking the work that we do here in our committees and we do here in our legislature. With people like the governor, there's this tendency toward thinking like, I don't have a problem with migrants, I have a problem with illegals, right? But we see statistically, for example, in the United States, the largest nationality of people who are technically illegal, who have overstayed their visas, are actually Canadians. And we don't have any stories of white Canadians in detention facilities in our states. And in Canada, one of the largest populations of people who have overstayed their welcomes or are working illegally are Australians in the ski resort industry. So who we think of as outsiders actually has very little to do with a person's actual immigration status. It has to do with how they're perceived, which is based on their value, which is based on their race and based on the type of labor that they can provide to employers here in the country. Governor Rickett will do anything to push the most expensive earmark in the state history, his new prison, to take attention away from how he bungled this child welfare contract. He should have called this editorial, instead of Halftime at the Unicameral, he should have called it, Please talk about anything other than my failed leadership when it comes to Saint Francis Ministries, because that's the real issue today that we need to talk about. The World Herald reports that Saint Francis Ministries had to borrow money to pay foster parents last year when it spent and took on the management of all Omaha area child welfare cases. In a February editorial, they say, the State Department of Health and Human Services has signed a 25-month, $147.3 million emergency contract. So that's in addition to what we've already agreed to with them, with Saint Francis Ministries, after the contractor was in danger of running out of money to handle child welfare services for Douglas and Sarpy counties. The problem stems from the Ricketts administration's acceptance in 2019 of St. Francis's strangely low bid that was 40% less than what the state had been paying. This is what happens when you run government like a business. Government is not business. Government is in the service of the people, and every taxpayer has a stake in its success. I support Floor Amendment 9 from Senator Hansen, but I also support the power of this body to stand up for the people that we represent, and the reality that sometimes means is that we also have to stand up to our co-equal branch of power, which is headed by Governor Ricketts, which is where the buck stops when it comes to the execution of the Saint Francis Ministries contract, which has been a complete failure. And the ones paying for it are the taxpayers and the children in care of the state of Nebraska. And we here have to have the responsibility to fix it and push back against this cynical, irresponsible messaging coming out of the executive board, like what Rickett's published today, whenever we have the opportunity to do it. I agree with Senator Flood as well that this is family business.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.